So we're rapidly approaching the end of 2022, and I hope the holidays were good to you and your family. And New Year's Eve going to be here really soon. So today on the podcast, we're looking back on how we celebrated New Year's Eve back in the late 90s and the early 2000s. And maybe not much has changed. A lot of the traditions are, still the same. And even though for a lot of people, New Year's Eve kind of took a backseat to Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, there are still a ton of memories we can look back on as we maybe stayed up late to watch Dick Clark and see the ball drop on TV, or maybe you just had friends and family over to ring in the new year with cocktail weenies and sparkling grape juice. But don't forget that with every new year, there's new opportunities. So Happy New Year to you all, and enjoy as we reminisce about New Year's Eves of the past on Generation S.
What is it?
It's time to go back. Welcome.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Generation S. This podcast about growing up in the 90s and early 2000s. I'm Dan Kemp, and once again joined by my lovely wife, Beth Kemp. Welcome back, Beth.
Hello.
And tonight, well, it's between Christmas and New Year's right now when we're recording this, and this is our New Year's Eve episode. So we are talking all about our memories of New Year's Eve from the 90s. Obviously not as, well, at least for me. I don't want to, assume. But for me, New Year's Eve was not as big of a deal as Christmas and Christmas Eve was. What about for you, Beth?
It was pretty big. Yeah.
So I think the difference is, like, my parents were usually in bed by like 7:30, so we didn't really celebrate New Year's Eve. As I got a little bit older, I went to New Year's Eve parties, like with friends and stuff, but that was like when I was like teenager-ish. So by then, a little bit more. But growing up as like a young kid in the 90s, no, New Year's Eve was really nothing. It was kind of the end of school break. So that's where it was almost a sad moment for me, because that was like after New Year's Day, you're back to school.
That's fair.
So, but no, we're hanging out here. It's the day after Christmas that we're recording this, and we are wading through our house is full of trash at this point, Beth.
It looks like shit.
It's pretty bad. There's just so many empty boxes. I think the kids had a good Christmas, right?
I agree. Yeah.
I think they had a good time, and that's really what matters, because that's what I remember as a kid, is all the good stuff. But I can only imagine the nights where my parents were just wading through piles of shit everywhere. So now we're doing that. So if you grew up in the 90s and you're a parent now, I'm sure you can relate to this. But today we are, like I said, talking all about New Year's Eve memories from the 90s. And really, I mean, between Christmas and New Year's, even now, it's kind of a blur, especially now because we usually take off work between Christmas and New Year's. So the days kind of just bleed together. What was that meme we saw on Facebook?
You're full of cheese and have no idea what day it is.
Yes, exactly. And if you're wondering why my wife sounds so sing-songy, she does have a very tall glass of wine sitting in front of her right now. So
I'm on vacation.
Well, I've got a big old glass of boozy eggnog in front of me as well, which I have not drank yet. Actually, I'll probably drink that in a little bit when you're telling a story or something. I don't want to sip into the microphone. But anyway,
whoopsie doodle.
Oh my God. I don't know how this episode's going to go, folks. So, let's kind of just kick it off. So New Year's Eve, let's back up a couple days. So for you, Beth, after Christmas as a kid, like, do you have any core memories of kind of what you did, or was it just like playing with your toys every day and then boom, it's New Year's Eve?
Well, if my mom listens to this, I love you, but she turned into the Gestapo and literally like 10 seconds after was like, Christmas is over, yay. We were to have picked everything up, put it away, find a place for it. She didn't want to see it, hear it, look at it, step on it. It was gone. It needed to be somewhere in the room, the playroom, etc. So that was the 26th of December.
Okay, so we're not that bad.
Well,
Do you wish we were? Do you wish we were more Gestapo-ish here?
I can appreciate it now as like my house is giving me anxiety. So, you know.
Okay. But you guys kept your Christmas decorations up, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we're Catholic. So little Christmas, you know, what is that? The 6th, 7th?
I don't know.
However long it took the wise men.
Is that the 12 days of Christmas, right? Like it's 12 days from December 25th and the end of that is little Christmas, I think.
Yeah, I think. I'm not.
I don't know.
Not that good of a Catholic.
I'm not that Catholic either. So, but anyway, okay. So you have the decorations up, but your toys were put away at least as best they could. I'm sure you had, trouble fitting in your toys with your old stuff.
I mean, then, if we let her know there was trouble, there was the threat of, we'll just find some for Goodwill.
Oh, okay.
So you either figured it out or, you know. Yeah.
Well, see, and I know because we talked about this just in our own conversations, you didn't have like a huge house where you could put stuff. So like you had to find spots for it. Whereas for us, when we got Christmas presents, we would just kind of throw them in the basement where our other stuff was. And it kind of just stayed there, or, it made its way into our bedrooms eventually if it was things, that would go in our rooms. But in general, yeah, we just kind of just stacked it on the old stuff, and I'm sure my mom got rid of it eventually, but I don't remember it, at least, as far as like stuff that I remember her getting rid of and being upset about it. So, all right. So you're cleaned up by December 26th. What are you doing between Christmas and New Year's at this point, if not just sitting in your living room with all your stuff?
Oh, I mean, we were playing with it, but it was like you would bring one thing out and play with it and then,
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, we were playing. We were reading, whatever. I mean, yeah.
Did you do anything else like specifically between Christmas and New Year's that was like an only tradition between those two holidays?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Me neither.
Sometimes, like a handful of times, we like went somewhere.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking, I can count the number of times on one hand.
Okay.
Yeah, like one year we went to Universal. So.
Okay, which is fun.
But that was the only. Usually it was just we would play. We lived up north, we would play in the snow and then our toys.
Yeah.
And then other places, just the toys.
Were friends around during, like, did you play with other like neighborhood kids and stuff during that time?
If they were not, in Minnesota with their family or something, if there was a kid available, we'd go play.
Okay. So it was just like a good, it was time off. It was, but once Christmas was over, like, did you stop watching Christmas movies and listening to Christmas songs and all that stuff? Okay. Because I feel like here now with our kids, like we were listening to Christmas music tonight. I feel like we're probably going to do that stuff until New Year's. The kids like it, right? As far as keeping Christmas going. But as a kid, that part kind of stopped then. So you had the decorations up, but that was about as Christmassy as it was in your house.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a nice clean break then heading into New Year's Eve, which is the focal point of today's topic. So let's walk through it, man. So New Year's Eve day, as a kid, nothing strange or out of the ordinary. It was just another day off. But I know, and you've told me this story before, but I want you to tell our listeners the story as well. So talk me through kind of, because you would have, like you said, you would do New Year's Eve at your house and you would actually acknowledge it and do something about it, or for it rather. So talk me through that, because it's, it's fun. I like what you guys did as a kid.
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest thing during the day on New Year's Eve was we would go to the grocery store and Mom would let us just go to the frozen food section and get like all the frozen junk food, like whatever, the TGI Fridays, like potato skins and the wings and pizza bites. And,
oh, yeah.
The pigs in blankets, all that. Now, some of you might be going, didn't you eat that other times of the year? And the answer is no. So that was really exciting. I mean, Mom, we were definitely well cared for, well fed. Every meal had, was the food groups were represented. We had a meat, we had a vegetable or a fruit, and we had a starch, didn't have a lot of soda. not a lot of juice, like water, milk, So, going to the frozen food section was honestly
That's a big
very
deal.
rare. Yeah, it was very rare. It was a lot of stuff was made from scratch, like that she had done. She was mainly stay at home, so she had a little more time to do that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the exciting part. My sister and I would just like take the cart and run up and down the frozen food section and just like throw as much crap that we possibly could.
It was what was that game show, Supermarket Sweep, where you just go and you just throw stuff in the cart?
Oh yeah, and we were like crackheads,
Yeah.
just running up and down. I got the pigs in the blanket.
Do you have a favorite, like a snack that was like your go-to?
I really liked the TGI Friday potato skins.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned those.
Those were my favorite.
They're really good.
They're amazing.
Like for better or for worse, they taste like the ones that you were to get at the restaurant if you went to TGI Fridays.
Well, that was the point.
Well, I know that, but usually if you buy, like for the example the other night, you got us some frozen PF Chang's, like orange chicken and General Chang's chicken. That doesn't taste nearly as good as the restaurant. But the TGI Fridays appetizers, or I think they call them anytizers, right? Or no, that was Tyson's. Never mind. But anyway, they tasted just as good as if you were to go, which makes me wonder, did they just get the frozen ones from a grocery store and serve them to you at the restaurant? Because that wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, dude, Applebee's uses a microwave for 90% of their menu.
Yeah, but I mean, it still tastes good. It's fine.
I don't
Applebee's was the ultimate date location for me in college, by the way, because it was cheap and it was nearby and they had anything you wanted. You could get whatever. So it was a fantastic.
Chicken fingers and fries.
Well, I would get the riblets. I'm a big riblets guy myself.
Oh my.
So, all right. So you got all these snacks and you go to town. What else do you have planned for the evening on New Year's Eve?
So, I mean, it kind of changed and evolved as we got older.
Sure.
So when we were a lot younger, I do remember the moms in the neighborhood would pool together and pick some poor high school kid that again, being older now, I was like, wow, did you not have any friends? Because they would come and babysit the neighborhood kids on New Year's Eve.
Okay, well, think about that. If they're charging per kid per hour, think about how much money they made.
They were dollar signs, and maybe these babysitters are CEOs now.
If they're that financially responsible as a teenager, you got to wonder if they're doing good things.
And good on them,
Yeah.
God bless. But yeah, so there would be a mess of neighborhood kids, 1 to maybe 2, depending on the number of kids.
Yeah.
Babysitters, and we would be at either my house or one of the neighborhood kids' houses, and we loved it because it was just a giant sleepover.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to go to sleep, but
so you would sleep over at wherever this house was. Like your parents wouldn't come get you at the end of the party.
Well, I think they would. I mean, it gets blurry after you like fall asleep at some random person's house, but I'm pretty sure they would like pick us up at like 1 or 2 in the morning and like carry us. I mean, the neighborhood was small, so like they could cart our tiny bodies, and put them in the bed.
Yeah.
So that was when we were younger. And then if we didn't do that, like if people were out of town, and we were younger, sometimes I would, mom would like at 8:00 be like, okay, go to sleep and I'll wake you up at 11:55.
Okay.
And she would, and then we'd watch, the Rockin' New Year's Eve, and then I'd go right back to bed.
Now, was it Dick Clark back then? It wasn't Seacrest, because Seacrest.
No, it was Dick.
Yeah, it was Dick Clark. Okay, I'm trying to remember. We did, because again, I didn't do any of this as a kid, so I don't need, like I said, I think we would just wake up the next day and be like, oh, Happy New Year. Good morning. Yeah. It's funny because like nowadays you can just go on YouTube and we've done this with our kids where you find it the last year's New Year's Eve ball drop and show it to them at like 8:30 and they just assume that's when the New Year's. And
Carl can tell time now. So.
Well, he can, but I still don't think he's going to catch on because I'm sure we'll do that this year.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't honestly, he doesn't seem to care. He's
No.
like, okay.
Well, and that was, again, I didn't care. It wasn't a big deal for me because, again, like for you, it was the allure of, oh, I can go buy all the junk food I want to and just go to town. If
And
you
it was
wanted,
a party. I mean,
well, that's the thing. Yeah, it was a party. We didn't have that, so I didn't care. The first New Year's Eve party I went to was actually, it was the Y2K New Year's Eve party.
Oh, that's funny.
And I remember this because it was my sister's boyfriend at the time had taken me to his grandmother's house. And it was a New Year's Eve party, but it was 99. And remember, that was the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Y2K, the world's going to end. And it was nuts. So I was very curious. It was the first time I'd ever stayed up until midnight for New Year's Eve. And actually was like waiting, like, okay, what's going to happen? Like, is the power going to go out?
Absolutely nothing.
Okay, well, spoiler alert. Yeah, nothing happened, obviously. But I remember that because, A, it was a really cool party, and I felt kind of like a grown-up because I was staying up till midnight, and I was 11 or 12. I was 12. I was 12.
Weren't we 13?
No, you turned 13 in 2000. We were born in 87.
I don't know.
So we were 12.
Okay, fine.
So a 12-year-old staying up past midnight at a random stranger's house. I mean,
There's a lot wrong with that sentence.
for me. That was, well, no, I was safe, obviously. But to me, that's living.
12-year-old at a random person's house.
Well, you know what was really cool about that house, actually, is they had a hot tub in their basement.
So did we.
You had it inside?
Yes.
Oh, God.
In New Hampshire.
Dealing with the Rockefellers over here. Jesus. We had a hot tub, too, but it was outside. We had to actually step outside in the snow to go in our hot tub.
Nope, I got to look at it through the little window.
Wow. Did you go in it? Were you allowed to go in it?
Yeah, they would just turn it down or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So New Year's Eve, you're watching the Rockin' New Year's Eve. Okay, let's go to when you're actually old enough, because if you go to bed at 8:00, there's really not much to tell. So how old were you when they started letting you like stay up with them until midnight?
I'm gonna assume it was probably like Y2K. I don't really remember a specific time, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then your sister's like 5 years younger than you. Did she start staying up when you did, or did she still go to bed?
She still went to bed.
So you got to be the cool big sister that like, ha. Now, were you a dick about it though? Like when she went to bed, did you like rub it in and flaunt it?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I'm just thinking of what our kids are going to do in a few years if they want to stay up till midnight and we have to let one over the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure.
So you're hanging out and you're just literally sitting around and eating bad food and watching New Year's Eve.
And we could eat it anywhere. That was the other thing, is that food was only consumed with the family at the table. And after a certain time at night, the kitchen was closed. So if you didn't have dinner, you were screwed. Yeah. So this was cool. And we weren't allowed to have like food in our rooms or plates or cups or bowls or anything. It was kitchen, appointed times, and that's that.
Yep.
So we would like lay this food out and we could eat it in front of the TV on our sofa. We would just go back and graze. Like we have a plate at, I don't know, 6. And then 2 hours later, I'm still hungry. And
you just leave it out like a spread.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
And so.
Now, this is a silly question, but I know per tradition, champagne is typically served at midnight.
Yeah.
Did you get champagne as a kid?
No, it was the bubbly Martinellis or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking. I'm just curious because we didn't have any booze or anything like that. Actually, we didn't really have any booze in our house,
she would get the sparkly Martinellis.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Which, again, was fancy because we didn't really get juice. So I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it was
juice.
I still love sparkling grape juice. I feel super bougie when I drink it.
Oh, it's tasty.
But I drink it straight out of the bottle
delicious.
like a homeless person. So
yeah. No, I would drink it now. Like,
yeah.
I like it.
Do we have any? We should probably get some.
We need to
New Year's
get
Eve.
some. Yeah, no, I would drink that instead of champagne.
Okay.
100%.
So, do you have any memories of like the New Year's Eve performances or anything like that?
No, because if we were up, we had the TV on, so like with the neighborhood kids. we would just be running around the house like just sociopaths, just like screaming, yelling, playing with our toys. I do remember one New Year's, I think it was on Nickelodeon. They had the TV set to Nickelodeon's Nick at Night or whatever, or not Nick at Night.
Well, they would have like a Nickelodeon's
Nick
countdown.
After Dark or whatever.
Well, Snick.
Yeah, so it wasn't like the old, like Nick at Night, the old, like, stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But that was the first time, and I can't remember how old I was. I was younger than like 9, and I saw my first Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Ooh.
Yeah.
You saw that on New Year's Eve?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were playing it at some point between like 8 and midnight.
Yeah.
And so we all stopped for a second. We're like, and they were like, what is this?
So what did you think of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I was scared shitless.
Do you remember what the episode was?
Not at all.
No.
Well, no.
Okay.
No. I remember them coming out of a cornfield
Okay.
and converging to like tell their story. And
well, that's like the opening, right?
Yeah.
They're coming they're in the woods.
Yeah, whatever.
And they gather around, and it's
I don't remember what the freaking story was.
It was the Midnight Society was the name of their little group that they told stories. So, well, it's funny you say that, actually. And I guess I'll explain more at the end of the episode here today. But my plan for next month is to have a Nickelodeon-themed January as far as the podcast goes. So there will definitely be discussions of Are You Afraid of the Dark on my Snick episode that I am hopefully going to put out.
Oh yeah, Snick, whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah, Snick, Saturday Night Nick. That's what it was called, with the big orange couch.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway,
yeah,
that was the first time I seen it.
So, but this was still, you were young enough to where you were.
I was in New Hampshire.
This was New Hampshire, where you were sleeping over at someone's house.
This particular time we were at my house.
Okay, and you had people over.
It was yeah. So the kids were over at my house.
So when you got older and you were staying up until midnight, and it was with your family, did you have people over to your house still, or was it just you guys?
So there was a period of time where it was just the 4 of us.
Okay.
So we moved to South Florida, and I think my parents probably had like their friends over. I don't know. I don't really remember anything like.
Okay, but you didn't have like a big New Year's Eve party every year.
So it was like the 4 of us and maybe like their friends over. But then, cut to like when we moved to Canton in Georgia, and I was in college, and that's when they started up again.
Okay.
And so my sister and I would invite, she was in high school at the time. I was in college. We'd invite our friends, and we would do a big sleepover. And in the house in Canton, the North Canton, my dad had finished a part of the basement. So we had a huge projection TV down there to watch all that stuff.
Nice.
My sister and I had jobs and money. And so long as we kept it like clean, afterwards, my parents were like, you can decorate. We don't care. Like, I'm not paying for it. But if you want to go to Party City, go for it. And so we would pool our meager funds from our $5 an hour jobs, and we would get decorations and theme them. One time we did a blacklight party.
Oh, nice.
Where everybody got a white t-shirt, and we had blacklight pens, and they would decorate their t-shirt, and then we had the lights up.
Nice.
And so that was one. And then another one, I remember we did like a bunch of, because we had 4 acres. So we did a bunch of fireworks. So we were just like blowing shit up. My friend had a lead on some good fireworks over in Alabama, and when he brought them that year, and we were just.
See, it's too cold in New York to do fireworks in the
No, that's
time.
fair. I mean, this was Georgia, so
that's
we
what I'm
were
saying.
cold, but
well, and for the most part, I mean, I've lived here for almost 15 years, and cold, yes, but not like frigid. This year is weird. Like, it's for anyone listening here that lives in Georgia, this weather has been really weird this last week or two as far as cold. But yeah, in general, pretty mild. I think we've definitely had New Year's like in like the 70s down here.
Last year, I think.
It was warm. Yeah. I think that week between Christmas and New Year's last year was actually really warm, which was nice. It was weird, but it was really nice.
Yeah.
So All right. So you had parties as he got older. And then, since we're kind of talking about our childhood here, I don't know. I mean, again, for me, New Year's Eve was not a huge deal, but I feel like we should at least talk about how it's kind of the end of a year for a kid, not the school year. So it's funny for me. I always thought the end of the year was June because that's when school ended. I remember getting into an argument with my mom. I think I was in kindergarten, so I'll give myself a pass.
It was yesterday.
No, it wasn't yesterday. I was probably 5, and I said to my mom, "Well, the new year is in September because that's when school started back up." So God knows where those 3 months in between June and September went, but to me, the new year was in September because that's when the school year started. And so I never understood, when my mom tried telling me, no, the new year is in January. I said, no, you're wrong. That's winter. That doesn't count. So, boy. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I had you on here because I didn't do anything for New Year's Eve of note, at least until I got older. So I needed somebody to come on the show with me that actually had memories of childhood New Year's Eve that were more than just, all right, go to bed at 9 and, Happy New Year in the morning, which was what we had.
And I think with us, it was just like, at least the way I felt, it was, I knew January was the new year. So, but it was like one of those things where it was a time where you can be like, you know what? This is what happened over the year. These are the good things. These are the not so good things.
Even as a kid, you had this thought process?
To a greater or lesser extent of like, well, I didn't do so well this, season of, basketball or so. I don't know. I wasn't doing so good. So like, after it was like, and it's not magic, but it was like magic. Like after today, tomorrow is a new year and I'm going to be great.
So, well, it's funny you mentioned that because I did want to talk about like New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
For me, I didn't really make any New Year's resolutions and have never kept them, but I never made them until I was like an adult. Honestly, when did you start making like New Year's resolutions?
I don't know when I like called them that, like when I was a kid, I didn't, but I just always felt like it was a fresh start. So I guess it wasn't necessarily a conscious resolution or something. I was like, oh, I resolved to do this, but it was like, you know what? I'm going to, it's fresh. I'm going to, this is what I felt like there was a problem with. And so we're going to switch it up. I don't know.
No, I mean, I guess it's true because women are more emotionally mature than men at a younger age because I didn't think about any of that. I honestly didn't.
I don't know if I'm super mature. I don't know.
No, I think my biggest concern, especially as a kid, was I really hope I can remember to write the new year on my papers at school, like the date.
Oh, yeah, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
100%.
I had a thought about this too, because again, I didn't celebrate New Year's Eve until I was older. But I remember in the 2000s, like, and they're still to this day, I don't know how they do it, but the glasses, right? They got the 2000 glasses.
I love those.
Well, they kept doing them. Like, I figured, they'll stop that in 2010. But no, then they did a 2010 with the 2 zeros still as the eyes, and then you just put a 1 in between.
Yeah.
And so that's how they did those. And then I don't know how they did them for like the 2010s to the 2020s. Like, what have they done? Because we haven't bought those glasses.
No, I haven't in a while.
But let me ask you this. Do you have any memories of those kind of glasses existing before the 2000s?
No.
Okay. So either they did or either they didn't, or if they did, I mean, you wouldn't have had them then.
No. I mean, we would get the party kits where you would get the hats and the sound makers and the lays or whatever. But
it was generic, though. It wasn't specifically related to it, whatever the year would have been.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. So that was I feel like that was a 2000 market ploy. That did very well, by the way, because they're still doing it today, I'm pretty sure. Like, if we were to go to Party City tomorrow, I'm sure we'd see something like that.
Well, maybe we'll do that with the kids.
That's right. We are going.
We have to carry the...
Yeah? Get the glasses?
Well, we have to carry the New Year's tradition. We have to take them to get their junk food, Yeah.
What are we doing for New Year's this year with them? We're just hanging at home, right? I think. Yeah. You sound disappointed. What would you rather be doing for New Year's Eve at this point?
I don't know.
Oh, man. Well, listen, this may end up being like one of our shortest episodes of the podcast just because, honestly, like the Christmas episode last week was insanely long because we had a lot to talk about because I had a lot of rich history with Christmas in my family and I didn't with New Year's Eve. And so, I mean, as far as, I mean, we can talk about now, like this last year in review, 2022. If you could sum up 2022 in a couple of words, what would you say? And you can say whatever you want, obviously.
Less of a dumpster fire?
But there's a question mark there, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
1000% question
I was going to
mark.
say, yeah, kind of a shit show, but in a good way.
But little, like a hair less.
Slightly improved.
Than last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
So, and New Year's Eve, I'm going to be like, it's a new year. And I'm going to be super hopeful.
For like a week.
Yeah.
And then you realize, no, it's pretty much the same. Well, at least as kids, we had a little bit more innate optimism. And yeah. And anything else from our childhood New Year's Eves that you want to share? Because again, I wish I could be more help here. I just don't have a lot of those memories.
I mean, I think that pretty much, is the one for me and my sister and my family. It was the one kind of day guaranteed every year where, anything goes.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I don't know if you've seen the thing now with the yes days that parents do.
No. What's that?
Oh, you haven't seen that?
No, I haven't.
Oh, apparently it's like a thing that I've seen on like Facebook, TikTok, whatever, where like they have to say yes to everything a kid does. And Carl has asked, and I'm like, hell no.
Oh, he's asked if we could celebrate Yes Day?
Oh, yeah. He's like, can you give me a yes day? And I'm like, absolutely not.
I was going to say,
you're going to ask for a freaking rocket ship or some shit.
Well, I mean, I feel like if we're going to do a Yes Day, we need to set some parameters as far as like.
Yes, but he's the king of loopholes.
He is. That's
true.
He's
smarter than me.
That's fair. Yeah. I can't really argue with that. Well, I will say the New Year's Eve, going back to the rockin' New Year's Eve, I don't really remember it with Dick Clark. I remember Seacrest. That's when I started watching it. It
was sad when he tried.
Yeah.
After the...
Well, he had a stroke or something,
yes,
right?
No,
yeah.
and it was like a co-thing with him and
Seacrest. He would like kick it back over to him, and you would see him on screen, and just it would look rough.
It was depressing. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, like it was terrible and awful, and I'm glad that he got that opportunity. He really loved it, but I was like, oh my god, that's depressing.
And so is Seacrest still doing it then? I can't remember. I think he is. Yeah. He's got a few years left.
Oh, and there's like other people like
well, they have the other shows, but we always watched
from like Pretty Little Liars. She's usually in Louisiana.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, maybe that's your territory, not me.
Somebody else is in.
I know they have like a West Coast one as well.
Yeah.
But I forget who hosts that. I know, like in New York City, that's where Seacrest is.
Yeah, because that's home base.
Yeah, and so. Again, I really didn't watch it much as a kid, and I know you did. But I've got a few little, little factoids here, little fun facts about Rockin' New Year's Eve from back in the 90s. Some you may have forgotten some of the performers, so I pulled up the Wikipedia article because that's, let's be honest,
for sure.
Honestly, a pretty reliable source of knowledge. Let's be honest. Wikipedia is pretty accurate for the most part. And I know that's, kind of a running joke, but it really is. So anyway, if you were watching back in the 90s, you may recall that the 1994 New Year's Eve celebration was actually co-hosted rather, by Margaret Cho and Steve Harvey.
There you go.
Did you know that?
I'm not going to lie. I didn't really pay attention to the shows until I was much older. So.
Well, there it is. See? Well, hey, some of you might have. So you may have also recalled some musical performances by Melissa Etheridge. Do you remember her?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Hootie and the Blowfish.
Oh, yeah.
I know you're a big fan of them, right?
Yes.
And actually, Salt and Peppa was one of the headliners that year.
Very good
And
group. Yeah.
so you can't go wrong there. A couple years later, we had co-hosts by, let's see, they were the cast from the TV show Clueless. I didn't know it was a show, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch it?
No, I didn't really, but yeah, it was.
Okay. Did you ever see the movie Clueless?
Oh, yeah, like 100 times.
I've never actually seen it.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
I love it.
I feel like it's a girl movie, though, right? Like
You watch girly movies.
Whatever. I do. Okay, so I'd probably like it then, is what you're saying.
Probably.
All right. Well, that year, just so you know, we had performances by someone called Jan Arden. I don't know who that is. Do you know who that is?
Nope.
No. Okay. Well, if you're a Jan Arden fan and you're listening to this, I apologize.
Or if you're Jan Arden, our apologies, honey.
Well, I mean, that's fair. I mean, she's still alive. So, yeah, she theoretically could be listening to
yeah,
this.
so our bad.
We also, and this is in 1996, had performances by Kiss.
Oh, there you go.
Which, it's interesting because, I mean, were they still popular in the night? I mean, I guess they're
still popular now. Are you kidding me?
That's true. All right. That's fair. We also had performances by Weird Al Yankovic.
That's fun.
I'm a huge fan of Weird Al. The Presidents of the United States of America. Do you remember that group?
No.
I feel like what did they did some stuff. They're a Seattle-based, like an alternative rock band. I'm looking to see what they did because I know they did some song. Let's see. They did the song Lump. Remember that song?
Yeah, sure. Oh, okay.
Do you remember that song Peaches?
Maybe. I don't do names. Like, nobody wanted to be my partner in trivia because I will sing lyrics to many different songs, but I cannot tell you the artist or the name.
That's fair. Okay, fair enough. So anyway, a little fun factoid there. A couple of performances there in the 90s. And then, I mean, really, this is the main New Year's Eve show, I feel, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I feel like maybe I'm wrong. Again, my memory could be blurry, but I feel like it was really the shows in recent years in the other time zones of the U.S. have gotten bigger. Like, I don't really remember. Maybe not. Maybe
I don't know.
just
I still
didn't
feel
stay
like
up that
Rockin'
late.
New Year's Eve, it's like the equivalent of like the Macy's Day Parade on NBC.
Well, yeah.
Right? That's like, it's just synonymous.
Well, we've always been East Coast people, so like,
and maybe that's what it is.
Who cares about? No offense.
No offense
to
to
the
y'all
other,
West Coasters. No.
Whole part of the country, but
but really, I mean, according to this, again, this Wikipedia, is that really it started really taking off in like the 70s as like the main go-to program to watch on New Year's Eve as far as New Year's Eve specials.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, and this is fun. So again, just going back because I love looking back to see who performed. I'm probably going to do this again if I do a Super Bowl episode too, because I always like to look at old Super Bowl halftime shows. But in the 2000s, 2000, we had performances by Wayne Brady did some concert segment hosting. Performances. Here we go. The Artists, 98 Degrees.
There you go.
Big fan of them. Baha Men.
Yeah.
In their one famous song. Actually, it's funny. I think it was actually over COVID. I decided to listen to the entire Baha Men album with, Who Let the Dogs Out. It's actually really good.
Well, it's awesome.
Like, have you listened to it?
No.
It's pretty good. Anyway, Boys to Men also performed Lone Star. Do you remember Lone Star?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
This country music band, you wouldn't, I know you're not a huge country.
I know the name, but yeah, I know. Yeah.
Anyway, and then Third Eye Blind actually performed that year. Let's see, 2002, you had Aerosmith, Destiny's Child, Elton John. You had Blink-182, Busta Rhymes, Jessica Simpson, LFO, personal favorite of mine, Pink. And then one, I've never heard of these guys, the OJs. Does that sound familiar to you? No. Okay. So might have been one of those obscure ones. I don't know.
One hit wonder?
Maybe. Yeah. But anyway, those are all kind of before Dick Clark's stroke. And then, Seacrest took over in the mid 2000s. I think Regis Philbin actually hosted one year. Do you remember that?
Maybe.
I think it was the year that he had the stroke. Regis Philbin took over for him. And then, Seacrest took over 2006. There it is. So I did my research kind of on the fly here. But now we know. By the way, would you ever go to New York City for New Year's Eve?
I wanted to. And I still might at some point and just do it from like a hotel room, like spend a ridiculous sum of money to have a nice room, because I've heard from people that have gone, like, it looks really pretty and fun and shiny from the television, but like, you are like, once you're in there, if you have to go to the bathroom, you better have an astronaut diaper.
Yep.
And like, you better enjoy other humans,
yes.
Which I do not. So like,
no, but really, how do you feel about people, Beth?
I love them. But anyway, so, when I was younger, I was like, I'm going to go to New York, Times Square. And now I'm like,
Yeah.
yikes. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. I'm with you. Like, I've had family that have done it, and they've all said, like, really wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing was the bathroom. Like, you're holding it for 10 hours.
No, that's not happening.
No.
I've had 2 kids. That's not happening.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like you're stuck there. You can't go into a local restaurant or whatever because you lose your place. Basically, you're never getting back in that crowd. Not that there's really I feel like there's not a good spot to stand. You're just literally standing around for the sake of saying you're standing there, but you're not actually seeing anything until the ball drops. Exactly. Yep. That's not worth it to me.
So yeah, I mean, I love the idea, and like I've been to New York City, like Christmas time. It's absolutely beautiful. It's so much fun. I would love to take the kids. But as far as New Year's, no, you either need to go back home for New Year's or you just watch it from like a ridiculously expensive
Well, you know what I would do? I would meet somewhere in the middle. This is what I would do. And maybe they do this and I haven't researched it enough, but like stadiums should book out New Year's Eve and put up a big Tron and do like a New Year's Eve countdown in the stadium. You're going to be cold, but you're going to have your own seat, and there's going to be restrooms available and concessions. You can even drink and just have a ball drop in the stadium, and you're hanging out.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? Maybe even get like a concert thing going there. Get some local performers or whatever to perform in the stadium. I probably know a few musicians that I could get on board with that.
That's fair.
But anyway, yeah, I never had the desire to do the New Year's Eve in New York City thing. I actually dated a girl that was like convinced that we were going to go do it one day. And I'm like, nah. No. This is before you, by the way, obviously.
Oh, okay. Good.
Because, we're married.
That would have been weird.
That would have been weird.
Awkward.
Yeah. So, but no New Year's Eve in New York City. For me, it's honestly, I'm not good at staying up late in general, as you've seen.
Yes, I can vouch for that. Yep.
Yeah, so like to force myself to stay up until midnight, even with the promise and the allure of basically unlimited junk food, that just doesn't do it for me at 35. Because I'll have like a couple of jalapeno poppers and then I'll have heartburn and be miserable for the rest of the evening anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
but
I think, and we have little kids, so just like spontaneously going to a party in Atlanta is not really happening. But
right,
I think even still as an adult, when the kids are older and they're doing their own thing anyway, I would totally go do something in Atlanta. I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe
I wouldn't stand around.
Maybe by myself.
No, I'd go with you. But I wouldn't stand around.
No,
like New York City
go out
style
with friends or
I would do like a house party before I did that, though.
That's fair.
I don't know.
We have time. It's not like we're going anywhere.
No. We got a few years with the kiddos before they can stay home alone. All right. So before we wrap up here, there's one other thing we wanted to actually, Beth, you wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
You actually pulled up a pretty cool article about like kind of fun facts over the years as far as New Year's Eve goes. Tell us a little bit about what you found.
So it's just the interesting things that happened like on the year or in the year that you were born, in regards to New Year's.
Yeah. All right. So you want to just kind of pick a few that are kind of neato or whatever?
Yeah.
I just said neato.
So I was going to, right. I'll start in 1985.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. So on New Year's Day, 1985, apparently, Britain's first mobile phone call was placed by comedian Ernie Wise.
Okay.
He called Vodafone's head office, and apparently the phone was nearly the size of a briefcase.
I did know that they were bigger back then. I didn't realize they were that big.
Well, apparently the first mobile phone call was placed in England on New Year's Day, 1985.
Interesting.
So
okay.
I thought that was...
And it was the size of a briefcase.
Yes.
Interesting. You know what's funny, too? I feel like we were kind of growing up in the era where phones were getting smaller and smaller.
Yes, and now they're getting bigger.
And now they're getting bigger again. Exactly.
But
I think
pocket doesn't fit.
Yeah, but you know what? It's because it's a screen now. People want to watch more stuff on their phones, so they're getting bigger again.
That's fair.
But anyway, all right. Well, that's cool, man. A little fun factoid from 1985.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take it to 1987 because we're,
that's the year we were born, man.
Partial that year.
Yeah.
So according to a food timeline, apparently a 1987 issue of Gourmet magazine stated that a popular dish to chow down on during your New Year's Eve celebration was a sample platter known as a midnight supper, which consisted of paprika shrimp butter, salmon and green peppercorn butter, brie and mushroom tartlets, spinach fennel, and pink grapefruit salad, chocolate mint ruffles, among other delicious treats. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but does that not sound like a charcuterie board?
I mean, it does sound like a charcuterie board.
There's no meats. I don't know. But anyway.
I mean, it's like an early version of a charcuterie board.
So, like, because our generation is, like, known for that. Like,
yes.
That's, like, a thing now where it's, like, everybody does charcutes, you know? And so that's hilarious that, like, 1987.
That's when it kind of started.
Apparently, New Year's, everybody's like, let's just put some random things on a board and, like, people pick from it.
Yeah, well, but I feel like that was the thing. Even like, what's the smorgasbord thing from Sweden? That was like I don't know, one of those, Nordic countries.
Maybe.
I don't know, but very cool that we are huge fans of it, and it came out in an early form in the year that we were born. So that's kind of cool. All right, what else you got?
1988.
Okay.
So you guys are, I'm sure, familiar with the song "Old Lang Syne."
Yep. You may have heard it at the beginning of my intro, actually, the podcast.
Yes. Well, it is apparently the unofficial New Year's Eve anthem, but in 1988, it celebrated its 200th anniversary.
Wow. So at this point, you're adding, 30? So it's like almost 235 years old.
Yes.
That's pretty crazy.
Yes.
And the reason I won't get sued for using it in my intro today, because it is considered what is called public domain.
Oh, there you go, because it's really old.
It's really old.
There you go. All right, so bringing it up. Oh, so this kind of goes back to something that we had talked about earlier, that apparently, even though I did celebrate New Year's, I did not remember this until the 2000s. But anyway, so apparently the New Year's Eve glasses that spell out the upcoming year, those were patented in 1990.
Okay, there it is.
Yes. So that answers the question from earlier.
Yep.
But anyway, it was very popular. It grew in popularity because it was easy to create eye holes out of the double nine. So
there it is. Okay.
That answers that question.
Over 30 years then at this point. They've been around.
Right?
Yeah. And I haven't seen them this year, though. So I don't know what they're going to look like for 2023, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. I haven't checked. I went to the store today. I didn't see them, but I wasn't really looking for them either. So, all right. So that was, what year was that? 91?
90.
90.
90.
Okay. All right.
We'll skip a little bit. 1992.
Okay.
So let's see. Apparently, Saturday Night Live had a taboo skit aired in December of 1992.
Ooh.
It was Rob Morrow, Dana Carvey, and Phil Hartman play three cowboys who have interesting New Year's resolutions, including drinking less and changing their questionable practices with the cattle. So I guess they were doing some funky things, and apparently it was kind of fell flat. As from the sounds of things.
Well, and it's one of those where it's funny because, you watch movies or shows where there's like a joke that, you find hilarious now, but like back in the day, it just wasn't funny. So, I
feel like the opposite has happened. There's like a lot of things from like the 90s that if you were to like play that now, you're like, ooh, that did not age well. That did not age well.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good
you're
point.
Like, yikes.
Yeah, no.
We said stuff like that.
Or just the humor in general. Yeah, like stuff that you would have laughed at back then. It's just not that it's like controversial now, but more just like it's not
didn't age well.
I'm going to be honest. Like I've talked about this on the podcast before. I have never seen a single episode of Seinfeld, and at this point, I don't feel like I'm missing much.
No.
I mean, did you watch Seinfeld?
I did. I mean, it was on. My parents watched it, so it was on.
But do you remember it being this like amazingly funny show? Because I've tried watching it, and I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I wasn't like a huge fan, but like I said, it was entertaining.
Yeah. Okay.
It entertained me.
All right,
And again, my parents had control of the television, so if it was on and I wanted to watch TV, that is what I watched.
Yeah. Well, listen, I do have plans to maybe do an episode about sitcoms in the 90s, and rest assured, Seinfeld will be on there. I just won't have a lot of positive things to say about it with whoever I don't know who my guest will be for that one yet. But
yeah, no, I'm not a good. Yeah, no, don't choose me. No goes.
All right, so that was 92. Anything else?
93. Your favorite person.
I have a lot of favorite people.
Barbra Streisand.
Oh, yeah.
That
definite
one.
Favorite person.
Yeah, she returned to the stage after a 27-year hiatus at the Las Vegas MGM Grand. It was a special New Year's Eve show that kicked off her tour. that ran through 1994.
Nice. All right.
So
Good
there
for
you go,
Barb.
Babs.
Good for Babs. You went by Babs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good for Babs.
Anyway, you already mentioned this one, but 95, had Brandy, Goo Goo Dolls, the Rembrandts. I think you mentioned that.
No, that was 96. No, because I talked 94 and then I skipped 96. So that's good that you're covering 95 there.
So 95, yep. So the crowd at Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve rang in the festivities with the musical performances by Brandy, Goo Goo Dolls, and the Rembrandts.
Nice.
Moving on. Let's see. Oh, here we go. 1997. I didn't know this. Apparently, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett said "I do" during a secret marriage ceremony held in Jada's hometown of Baltimore on New Year's Eve.
What year was that?
1997.
That was 97. So 25 years later, their marriage truly put to the test with what is considered the end of Will Smith's career, I guess.
Again, yeah, no, I don't know.
Oh, man. All right. So that was 97. Give me, let's do one more. Give me one more.
All right. Let's see. Should we do 2000?
Yeah, let's do 2000.
2000. All right. So apparently in 2000, there is President Bill Clinton, First Lady Hillary Clinton, and their daughter Chelsea ushered in the new millennium watching the New Year's Eve firework extravaganza unfold at the National Mall in Washington, D.C.
Nice. Okay.
So, yeah. So that's just a couple of interesting things that were happening in New Year's Eves that you may or may not have known were happening.
Well, there it is, man. Awesome. Oh, man. Well, a good year in review. And again, we're still coming off of Christmas here. So speaking of which, hopefully you yourself had a fantastic Christmas celebration, if that's your thing. Or maybe it's Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or Festivus, or maybe you don't do any of those things and you just hang around with friends and family, and hopefully not by yourself. But we're getting real close to New Year's Eve. So again, this comes out on the 28th of December, fingers crossed, which means you got a few days to catch up on the show before the actual New Year's Eve hits. So hopefully you have a chance to reminisce on some of these memories, and maybe you did the same thing. Maybe you were like me, where you were in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock as a kid, and it was just whatever. Next day, it was Happy New Year's, good morning. Or maybe you were like Beth, where your parents literally let you loose in a grocery store like the kids in Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory and just buy every fried food under the sun and gorge until it's time to go to bed. Or maybe you're somewhere in the middle. I don't know. That's the beauty of this, right? Everyone had a different experience. So Happy New Year. We're heading into 2023, meaning we are basically almost 30 years past what this podcast is supposed to reminisce about. Most of the late 90s and early 2000s. So I say 25 years past. But yeah, man, what a year. Beth, give me some great news that happened to you in 2022.
In 2022, yeah, I mean, I got a new job. So
you did get a new job.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'm no longer a teacher.
You're not. And we never talked about this before, but you did. You used to be a high school science teacher. When I met you, you were a high school science teacher. But yeah, you have changed careers. You went straight corporate.
Yep.
And it was pretty scary, right? At first.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Petrifying.
But now you're 6 months in. You're doing good, right? Everything's good.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So definite positivity there.
Much better.
Well, now the downside is you don't get the teacher vacations anymore.
No, and that's something to balance and think about. And the company I'm at right now is very nice because they will offer like unlimited PTO.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm taking a week off to be with the kids during their vacation. I took off a week for their fall break, and I'm taking off a week for their spring break. So
yeah.
The only thing is really summer, and honestly, I mean, so long as I'm getting my work done and, all that, I can step away and throw a couple of, water balloons with them or something,
Water balloons.
I don't know. I don't know why that came to my mind.
That was random.
That's just what we're doing, apparently.
I mean, the kids do love water balloons, so,
I was thinking a summer activity.
And water balloons is what came to mind.
I don't know, man.
That's fair. That's fine. So, well, for me, we're almost 6 months into this podcast existing. So that's something big that happened in 2022. I started a podcast. And I've lost count of the episodes at this point, and I think we're around 20 or something like that. So,
well, yeah, if you were doing half a year.
Well, so I started like the end of July.
Yeah.
So we're like 5 months in. Yeah. And if that's every week an episode, it's about 20. Yeah. So I guess we're about 20 episodes in. And as I mentioned earlier in the episode, I am so excited. My plan is to have a Nickelodeon-themed January. So every single episode in January will be Nickelodeon-related, whether it's talking about the cartoons or the sports or the SNCCs, the Saturday night Nickelodeons that would happen. Nick at Night's definitely going to get some coverage. So I'm calling it the New Year's nonstop Nickelodeon extravaganza.
Ooh.
It's got a ring to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So there will be more on that here soon. Make sure you're checking out the podcast page for updates on that, the Facebook page, I mean. And hey, guess what? We are on TikTok now. Did you know that? Beth, did you know that?
Nope.
You knew that.
I don't have a TikTok.
No, but you've seen my TikTok videos.
I guess.
Well, anyway, so if you search Generation S Podcast on TikTok, got some videos up there. I'm still trying to figure out how to be a good TikToker, so any suggestions on that would be much appreciated. But also make sure you're following us on Facebook, Generation S Podcast. We are also on YouTube at Generation S Podcast, and we actually post some exclusive content on there, exclusive podcast episodes about specific topics. So, for example, we've got some pretty cool stuff up there about pro wrestling, about Power Rangers, and I've gotten some pretty good response on those. So check out the YouTube page as well. And hey, Happy New Year. 2023 is going to be here real soon. So make sure you are writing the correct date on your checks and wherever else you have to put a manual date. People write checks still.
Other than the old lady at the grocery store ahead of you. Jeez.
People write checks. Or wherever you're writing your dates. Make sure you put a 2-3. And Happy New Year to you, Beth.
Same to you, babe.
Thank you. And happy holidays, guys. 2023 right around the corner, and we will talk to you soon.
Goodbye.